right. It has been a little while since I was very consistent with the physical practice. So the purpose of this one is going to be not so much to push really hard, but to go through the core foundational movements that are the most important to me and that I think can be the foundation of a sustainable practice. So that's what this is going to be. Just going to go through some of those movements that I think are going to be key for making up foundational practice. So let's start on the floor and just do a little stretch to begin. So start with your knees bent as much as they need to be so that you can reach forward and grab your toes. And already I feel stretch coming into the back of my legs here. That's what we want. Oh, and take 3 good deep breaths here, okay? 3 good deep breaths. You can get some twisting going so that you get a bit of a stretch on the outside of your back and the outside of your legs. And if you're comfortable in this stretch, maybe slowly start to inch your butt back, little step by little step, to increase the stretch in your legs. One important part of stretching is holding it for a long time, or at least 30 seconds or so, or a minute. And that is a part that I'm really good at not doing because I'm impatient. So, part of the reason that I am making a video like this is for accountability to myself, because I then will actually have a reason to hold the stretch for an appropriate amount of time. And another reason I make them is that I actually like to come back and watch these videos when I don't feel like I have the patience to take myself through my own movement practice and I need some guidance. So it's a good combination. Just getting a good, I said we were going to take 3 breaths here, we're holding it a lot longer. That's okay, that's good. I'm feeling fairly tight through the back of my legs and through my back, my lower back. And this is opening up all those muscles, getting some tension out of them. When your muscles are tight, they pull on other muscles and bring your whole body out of alignment. So it's good to spend some time releasing the tension in your muscles. This is one of the foundational stretches that I think is the most important, because you can twist from right to left and you can move the stretch around so that it gets different parts of your muscles. But these are muscles that get really tight and they connect from your legs up into your back. And it seems to me like it's very useful to stretch them. So take some more deep breaths, keep the deep breathing going. As you move the stretch around through its full range. There's also something nice that comes along with deep breathing, which is that I find, at least for myself, in my mind, my ADHD thinking, tensing up mind that gets to worry and anxiety and all these things, it's almost as if worry and anxiety and scattered thinking are these kind of structures that get built up in tension by kind of bouncing back and forth and building up into these structures of tension. And when you breathe deeply, when you take some time and just breathe deeply, it's like the structure, it's like the tension that's holding up these structures just dissolves and comes down into this like more of a pool of water. And that is something that I think is really valuable. And stretching is one thing that does it, and stretching combined with deep breathing does it really well. So if you're the type of person who that description of mental patterns makes sense to, then I think deep breathing and prolonged stretching is really good. Because I'm sure you've heard, even just in this last little while of me talking, while I'm prolonging this stretch, is that I forget to breathe and I get up into my mind, and then I have to remind myself, breathe, feel into a stretch. Alright, this is good. We're coming to the end of this stretch. Maybe give it one push where you really lean forward and stretch your calves, flex your feet, stretch the back of your legs. You can bring your head down toward your knees if you like. If you curl your head, if you curl your chin towards your chest, you can get a different stretch through the back of your neck all the way down your spine. Be gentle with it. You gotta always be careful with your back. Back and knees especially, you always gotta be careful with. So be gentle. Alright, okay, let's come up onto our feet in a nice supported way. And we'll stand up. So one exercise that I've found very useful recently, and where I've noticed that I'm really tight, is if you just stand up, come into a mountain pose, chest, sternum forward and up, shoulders down and back. Now with your shoulders pulled back together, like shoulder blades pulling together, shoulder blades back, this is a very upright posture. And it's maybe not one that a lot of people are used to. It's certainly not one that I'm used to. I'm used to my shoulders coming forward and kind of slouching down. And it's from that slouch down position that my whole shoulder range of motion is used to functioning in. So that when I bring my shoulders back and down, if I hold my arms out, all through my arm is this very intense and maybe even painful stretch if I push it. So that's because my arms are not used to operating in this range of motion, and the muscles are tight in such a way that they pull naturally to want to come back down into this slouched position that I spend all my time in. So a really good stretch for posture, a really good stretch for developing an upright posture is just bringing your shoulders down and back as much as they'll come, and then pulling your arms outward as if they're being pulled out by, as if you have a string on the end of your finger pulling them outward. And then you move them around the range of motion until you find a stretch that goes right, it comes right through my shoulders, through my upper arms, out to my fingertips. Now, if you bring your hands kind of flexed upward like that, then the stretch comes into your forearms, and it can be really intense. So find a gentle edge here with your sternum up, shoulders down and back. Find somewhere where that stretch is coming in through your shoulders, through your upper arms, and just hold it. And take some deep breaths here within this new postural foundation. We're going to hold here for a little while because, as I said, these muscles that you're stretching, these are the ones that are tight and that pull you down into that collapsed posture. And this isn't always the most fun stretch. It's a little bit painful. It's a very acute stretch, a very sharp stretch. So don't go too hard on it, just find an edge that's sustainable and hold it for a little while. You can rotate your head. If you bring your head down to the left, you'll find that stretch on your right arm is increased quite a bit. So you can bring it around to both sides, tilt your head from left to right. Establishing a new range of motion in your shoulders here, establishing a new posture. You can lift your arms up higher if that's doable for you. Always remembering to keep your shoulder blades pulling together down and back. The most important part here is not to collapse your posture. You can rotate your arms so that the backs of your hands face forward and then the palms of your hands face forward. Finding different edges of this stretch. Fingertips pulling outward. Let's take 3 good deep breaths and then we'll move on. I can't remember if that's 2 or 3, so we'll take one more. All right. Oh yeah. That's strengthening too, because holding your arms out like that strengthens your shoulders. Okay. Okay, all right. I'm gonna turn down the heat here. It's getting a little hot. Open my window a little bit. All right, this is good. We're getting warmed up, getting in the body. Getting energy flowing through opening the body instead of collapsed forms. This is what we want. We want to stretch. Stretching the muscles opens your body, and if you build strength in parallel with that, then your body is supported in the new positions that you're developing. All right, we're gonna do some one leg balancing postures, which I think are really useful. Actually, we're gonna do that, but first I want to do a something for knee support, which is so we'll come down to our side. This is on the mat. This is a practice that I think is really good for building knee support. It's a glute strengthening exercise, and your glutes connect. As if we do one leg balances, you'll see your glutes are a really important part of that strong foundation. And this is an exercise. This is one that I really like because it doesn't put any pressure on the knees. So if you do have knee pain and you need to have practices that are going to develop strength that can lift you out of your knee pain, that can support your knees instead of collapsing into them. You want practices that you can do that don't put any pressure on your knees, and this is a really good one. So on your side here, you can lean on your elbow. Make sure your chest is nice and open in a way that doesn't feel collapsed. Even here already, I can feel my side body and back engaging. And we're going to take the upper leg and just lift it up. You can lift it up like as high as it'll go, and then lower it just a touch. So you want to be maybe at 80% height, because we're going to hold it for a little while. And your upper foot, the foot that's lifted, should be parallel with the floor. If it's opening up, you're going to be using the front of your leg more, and we want to be activating the glute for this one. So you can even tilt it a little bit down, and this gets your glute going into your lower back all activated. But basically just keep it parallel and hold it here. I'm going to take some deep breaths. You can take some deep breaths while I talk. You can lower down onto your side completely like this and rest your head on your arm. And sometimes I like doing this, but I find that when I lift up, it's more work for my glute. Because as I lift up, my leg naturally wants to push down. So to keep it engaged takes more muscle engagement, which is what we're going for. So holding it here. You want to hold it for a pretty long time. You know, you want to find your edge. And if your edge isn't the same as my edge, that's fine. You can take a rest somewhere in the middle of this. But I'm going to go for 3 more deep breaths and then we'll lower. And lower it down. Whew. Oh yeah. That can be a challenging one. That's good. Really good for getting the glute active in a way that doesn't put any pressure on your knees, on your joints. Okay, we'll come over to the other side and get the other leg working. So come onto your side, make sure your chest is nice and open, and lift up the leg. This one's already harder for me. This is another one. Any exercise you do, you can experiment with rotating or moving around through your range in this one and finding different muscle engagement. Find wherever feels like, maybe wherever feels the hardest or wherever feels like you can do it. You just want to find somewhere that engages the muscles for you. I think the best thing to aim for in this particular exercise is to lift your leg and have the inside of your foot be parallel with the floor. And to lift it as high as you can, really, to get that glute working. Oh yeah, this is hard. Okay, 3 deep breaths. And then we'll move on. Whew. Yeah, wowee. All right. Very nice. Just got a slight counter to that before we move on to the one legs. Come back into this kind of seated forward fold here and get a little bit of just a regular forward bending stretch in the back of your legs just for 1 or 2 breaths here. Getting a little bit of twists, maybe some pedaling in your legs. And then bring your left leg over your right knee and turn your upper body to the left so that you feel a nice stretch through your outer leg, your glute that you were just working. Yeah. Move it around a little bit in that range of motion just to pull it the other way, just to release the tension. And then switch. Do the same for your other leg. All right, and now we'll come up to standing. And, whew, yeah, glutes are way turned on. That feels great. So we'll come to a one-legged stand. I'm going to start on my left leg here and lift up your right leg so that it is at 90 degrees or parallel to the floor. And make that standing leg a strong foundation, activating the glute, making a strong pillar, a strong pathway of muscle activation all the way from your core, through your hip, your glute, down through your knee, into your feet. And we're gonna hold here for a little bit. This is another one where if you can't hold this for very long, you can just take a break in between, or you can switch to the other leg. You can switch back and forth pretty often if you need to, but try to hold it for a fairly long time. Try to push your edge a little bit. And yeah, we'll hold here for a little bit. Try to keep your hips square. You'll notice sometimes if you're standing here for a while, you'll collapse one way or another. And what you want to do is make it, you want your energy to be very upward, very upright, down through the strong pillar of your leg. All right, if you want a nice, fun additional challenge in this one that I really like is just straighten your upper leg a little bit. I can't really hold it at 90 degrees, I can't really hold it at 90 degrees, but if I straighten it, I can bring it to maybe about 45 degrees. And work on lifting it and lowering it. This just puts more work in your upper leg here, your glute. All right, now we're going to stay on this foot if you can. If you're on your other foot by now, that's all right. We're going to come so that your upper leg comes toward the back and we're leaning forward. This is going to change the emphasis of the muscles that are working here. My standing leg is bent now. You can, whatever you need to do to hold this in a supported way is good. Building strength through all your stabilizing muscles up through your ankles, your knees, your hips. Open that door a crack. It's getting warm in here. All right. Yeah. And if you're up to it, you can come very much forward into a kind of airplane pose. Try to keep your knees square. If you do this and keep your knees square, the glute on your standing leg will be very activated. At least that's what you want it to be doing. Building strong foundation. All right, this is getting quite tiring, quite difficult. So I'm gonna slow and in control, come back up, upright, and bring my right foot to the floor. Whew, yeah, wowee. All right, same thing on the right leg. Make a nice strong pillar, bend your knee if you have to. Find a way that you have a pillar of support that's not causing any pain or tension anywhere. And bring your left knee up. We're going to hold in this position for a few breaths. Strong pillar, active glute, upright energy. Another thing you can always do in the standing one leg position is if you're, a lot of the time when I'm doing this, I'm just trying to expand my ability here, so I'm trying to hold this for longer. And one thing you can do whenever you're trying to hold any position for longer is if there's other exercises you can do at the same time, it's kind of nice to just get them all done at the same time. So here, for instance, if I want to hold this until my right leg gives out, I can just stand and I can do that posture thing we were doing earlier where I bring my shoulders down and back and get a stretch through my upper arms, which is really great for opening up your posture. And while you're doing it on one leg, it increases awareness of the whole position so that you're really in this challenging upright posture that's benefiting a bunch of different areas all at once. All right, I'm going to bring my left leg, straighten my left leg a little bit to get the work into my left glute. Holding this whole thing up. And now I'm going to bring it through toward the back. Bend my standing leg and come to lean more forward. Trying to keep my hips square here, so bringing my left hip down and squaring it with my right hip. That naturally bends my right leg and brings the weight to the position so that it's being held in my glute, in my hip, which is what we want. We want to strengthen the glutes here. And to lean forward as much as you can or would like to. You can also play with twists here, like if you find it useful, you can open your upper body towards the right, and that really engages my glute. All right, right leg is getting pretty tired here. Whew. I'm gonna come back to upright. And bring my left foot down. Whew. Good work. That was hard. That was hard. All right. What else is really foundational? There's one that I really like. It's a kind of boat pose. So we'll come down onto the mat. Now, boat pose is where it's just your butt on the ground and your legs are lifted like this or straightened like that. We'll just start with our heels still touching the ground. You can lift them just a little bit to get a sense of the engagement that you want. You want your core to be turned on. You want your hip flexors, your inner thighs here to be working. You don't want to be collapsing in your back, so your back should be pretty much straight, your lower back that is, straight or even a little bit arched. And I said heels on the ground. And that's a variation of it that you can hold. If this is already quite challenging, just hold heels on the ground. I'm gonna lift my heels up just a little bit off the ground. And hold here for a few breaths. This is another one where you can bring in the shoulders if you like. You can find different ranges where your arms are getting a stretch. You can also play with, if you bring your knees together and you push your feet outward, it engages your glutes a lot more. Or if you open your knees outward and bring your heels together, it works your inner thighs a lot more. So you can play with this range of motion with your legs to get different muscles activated in accordance with whatever you need for your body at the moment. Whew, yeah, this is getting hard. All right, that's enough. Whew. My goodness. All right. There's one more really good stretch that I always find myself coming back to that I would consider pretty foundational for me, which is I'll step one foot just slightly forward, my left foot, and then my right foot just slightly back to make this kind of V shape or A-frame shape. And then I'll slowly lean forward, bending my front knee as much as I have to bring my hands to the floor, and then slowly straightening it and keeping your lower back very flat here, folded right down like an arch, so your butt's really sticking out. And then straightening into the stretch so that you get it stretched through that front leg. And again, you can play with rotating, turning a little bit to get the whole range of the stretch, find different parts of the muscle. It's really good. You can bend your back knee, and I don't know how to describe this, but you can watch on the screen. You bend your back knee and kind of lower down. You can find more angles of this stretch, which are really good for opening up your legs, releasing tension in the muscles that are tight in your legs, which I'm convinced are a big part of the cause of knee pain, is that certain muscles in your leg are underused and they get tense, and some of them are weak, and so your leg gets all imbalanced
And so you need to stretch the muscles that are tight, strengthen the ones that are weak to get a well-rounded support for your whole leg that actually lets it move in a way where your knee joint isn't getting pressure put onto it. And this is one of those stretches. Take some deep breaths. Deep breaths and gentle movement. And patience and time. With your left foot forward, if you bring your right foot to the floor and open your left palm up so that your torso faces toward the left, that brings the stretch very nicely into the outside of your front leg. Oh yeah. Okay, now I'm going to switch. Right foot forward, left foot back. Oh yeah, that's a good stretch, my goodness. Find the edge of the stretch and just gently push into it. Take some deep breaths. I do think that with stretching and with strengthening, at least the kind that I'm looking for, one really key factor is time, is patience, is doing it for quite a while, and breathing into it, and letting your anxious mind patterns that want to move on and do something else quick, let them just, you gotta re-dissolve them all the time with patience and deep breaths, because they always want to keep moving on and do something else. It's this pattern of like anxious thought. And the only really way that I know of dissolving that pattern of anxious thought is by repeatedly, intentionally dissolving it through patience and deep breathing. And I think that's a lot of what meditation is for, but for me, meditation is a lot easier in the context of this movement practice, like physical engagement, because I have something to focus on, something that's actually a challenge, where to engage this stretch for a while, it's a little uncomfortable, so I have to stay focused on it, otherwise I just kind of lapse out of the stretch. So dedicate some time and deep breaths. Another variation of this one, I've been doing this, I'll bend my back knee and bend down backwards, but then I'll also come forward so that my leg is straight and I'm almost coming up into a one-leg position again. And I find that as I do this, I find other areas of the leg that are really tight and that won't naturally move into this position. And that signifies to me that when I'm doing a one-leg stand, I'm probably not I probably haven't developed the most supported muscle pathways that I can, because it's quite a stretch for me to even just bring my leg to straight. Yeah. So anyway, move through the whole range of motion here, find twists to the right, twists to the left, and find wherever you have the most tightness, the most tension in your muscles, and just gently focus on that area. Release the tension bit by bit. Never too much at a time. This is the thing about a sustainable practice, is that good stretching and good strengthening happens a little bit at a time over a long time. And it can be disheartening if you're looking for quick results, which I think everyone, I mean, I am, of course I'm drawn by the temptation of quick results, but I have to keep reminding myself that there's reasons that I want to develop physical strength and flexibility and a supported body that are unrelated to short-term goals, that are long-term support for my being. Okay, I think that's it for today. That felt pretty good. I'm glad that I had that practice today. À la prochaine.